Welcome to this podcast episode brought to you by AGS Agriculture Global Solutions, your partner for better oil palm farming.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Today, we are diving deep into the ultimate battle for your farm's productivity. Mastering weed control to protect your yields and your bottom line.
It's such a critical topic.
Register now on cropdrive.ai. Use the tool completely free of charge, no hidden fees, no conditions. CropDrive helps you improve your oil palm growing skills.
Absolutely.
Subscribe to our channel so you do not miss key oil palm best practice episodes. So for this deep dive, we're looking at a major 2026 study out of Southeast Asia, right?
Yeah, exactly. This study looked at real farm data from, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Thailand.
Yeah.
And it exposes, basically an invisible thief on your farm.
An invisible thief? I mean, that sounds a bit dramatic, but we're talking about weeds here, right?
We are. But specifically, if you're managing young palms right now, these weeds are quietly preparing to steal up to 60% of your future harvest.
Wait, 60%?
Yeah, up to 60%.
Yeah. That is just, that's staggering. More than half of a potential harvest wiped out just because of unmanaged weeds during the establishment phase.
Right. And that establishment window is so critical because, think about the physical structure of your plantation at that stage.
A canopy isn't closed yet.
Exactly. When your trees are young, you've got this massive volume of intense tropical sunlight just blasting the plantation floor.
Right. There's no shade.
None. And that sunlight acts like an ignition switch. It just triggers these fast-growing annual weeds. I'm talking about aggressive grasses like goosegrass and, various broadleaf varieties.
Okay, let's unpack this because visualizing what actually happens under the topsoil is vital here.
Yeah, it really is.
It's like setting down a plate of highly nutritious food for your growing children, but a flock of aggressive birds swoops in and just eats it all before they get a single bite.
That is a perfect way to look at it.
Right, because you are out there applying expensive fertilizers, nitrogen for leaf expansion, potassium for stress tolerance, but those fast-growing weeds just intercept everything first.
They do. And to take your bird analogy a step further, these birds aren't just eating the food, they are breeding rapidly while they do it.
Oh, right, because they spread so fast.
Exactly. The root systems of your young palms are still shallow, really, but something like goosegrass has this dense, fibrous root mat. It's like a sponge. It immediately absorbs the topsoil moisture and all those dissolved fertilizers.
Wow. So they're literally starving the palms.
Yeah. And if you don't stop those weeds before they flower and drop seeds, you aren't just feeding a flock today. You are burying, millions of future weeds into what scientists call a soil seed bank.
A seed bank. Let's make sure we are clear on what that means for a working farmer.
Right. So it literally means thousands of dormant weed seeds are just buried in the dirt waiting.
Waiting for what exactly?
Right. For the right moment of sunlight and moisture to germinate. They can survive down there for years. So if you let those early light-demanding weeds go to seed, you're basically guaranteeing a decade-long battle on your farm.
That is terrifying. But, knowing that weeds are stealing nutrients and burying seeds, that doesn't really solve the problem of how to get rid of them.
No, it doesn't.
So when the researchers behind this 2026 study looked at how farmers across Southeast Asia were fighting back, what did they actually find?
Well, they found a massive flaw in the most common weapon used, which is chemical herbicides.
A flaw? But everyone uses herbicides.
I know, but the scientists evaluated years of real-world field data. They compared everything chemical, mechanical, cultural, biological methods just to see what actually sustains yields over the long term.
Dang.
And they proved that relying on just one defensive method, especially an exclusive reliance on chemical herbicides, it inevitably fails.
Really?
Yeah, the environment always adapts. They concluded that the only truly sustainable fix is integrated weed management, or IWM.
Which means mixing and matching different tactics, right? to keep the weeds off balance.
Exactly.
But look, if I'm a smallholder, I'm exhausted. Managing a farm is grueling physical labor. Buying a jug of herbicide and just spraying the rows seems infinitely faster than, running a slasher all week.
Oh, absolutely.
So if chemicals are a trap, did the scientists just conclude that farmers need to go out there and pull every weed by hand?
What's fascinating here is that the scientists absolutely did not advocate for pure manual labor. They understand the harsh realities of farm work.
Right. Nobody wants to pull weeds by hand all day.
Exactly. Integrated weed management isn't about throwing away your sprayer. It's about layering your defenses.
Layering, okay. How so?
By utilizing mechanical slashing, strategic shade, and biological tools, You ensure that when you do use a chemical, it's a highly targeted strike, not just a blanket dependency.
Got it. But that distinction brings up a pretty massive divide in how this industry operates, doesn't it?
Oh, sure.
Because the strategy for fighting weeds looks incredibly different depending on the size of your farm.
Yeah, scale dictates the technology you can actually use. Industrial plantations, I mean, they operate massive blocks of land. They can mobilize fleets of mechanized sprayers.
So they get crazy efficiency with chemicals.
Right. And they also have the infrastructure to haul hundreds of tons of empty fruit bunches, EFBs, right from their own commercial mills.
Ah, to use as mulch.
Exactly. It's a thick weed-suppressing mulch across the whole estate.
Wait, if the massive industrial estates are relying heavily on chemicals and EFBs, shouldn't a smallholder just try to copy them to get the same yields?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, attempting to mirror an industrial estate is a really dangerous economic trap for a smallholder.
How so?
Well, think about the economics. An industrial estate buys chemicals in massive bulk directly from the manufacturers, right? So they secure wholesale prices.
Oh, and a smallholder is buying retail from a local distributor.
Exactly. When herbicide prices spike globally, the small-scale operator feels the pain immediately. Plus, trucking heavy, wet EFBs from a distant mill to your own farm.
Yeah, the diesel costs alone would be huge.
Right. The truck rentals and fuel wipe out any financial benefit of that mulch.
Which forces some incredibly difficult decisions for the smallholder. I mean, to stretch a tight budget, a farmer might try to wait longer between sprays or, even worse, apply a diluted, weaker dose just to make the jug last longer.
And applying a diluted dose is biologically catastrophic.
Because it doesn't kill them.
Right. A weak dose doesn't kill the robust weeds. It only kills the weakest ones. The strong ones survive the spray, metabolize the chemical, and pass those survival genes to their offspring.
So you're literally training the weeds to become immune?
You are. This is the exact mechanism that creates herbicide-resistant superweeds on your land.
Man, here's where it gets really interesting, though, because let's look at the actual math of this. The underlying assumption for most farmers is that chemicals save money on labor.
Yeah, that's the standard thinking.
Intensive chemical use definitely reduces the physical hours spent in the field, but the input costs are exorbitant.
They really are. Conversely, mechanical weeding, using a tractor slasher or handheld brush cutters, that requires far more labor hours and sweat.
Right.
It drastically reduces your chemical bills.
And the 2026 study tracked this, right? The researchers looked at the bottom line profitability when farms shifted from heavy chemicals to a mechanical-heavy integrated approach.
Yes, and the results were amazing. When they substituted chemicals with mechanical weeding, the farms obviously had to pay more in labor.
Right, like 10% more to cover the extra slashing, which intuitively you'd think hurts the wallet.
But you have to look at the other side of the ledger. By making that shift to physical slashing, their chemical purchasing costs plummeted by an astonishing 41%.
Wait, really? Let me make sure I'm hearing this clearly. You're telling me that spending 10% more money on physical labor actually increased the overall profit margin because the chemical savings were that massive?
Exactly. The overall profit margin increased by 12%.
That is wild.
The savings from dropping the chemicals completely paid for the extra labor and still put significantly more money in the farmer's pocket. And that happens while maintaining the exact same fruit yields.
So it just proves that mechanical approaches sustain productivity and give you better financial stability.
Yeah. Not to mention the unseen benefits to the soil itself.
Oh, right, because heavy chemical usage just destroys the soil microbiome. And there's the risk of toxic runoff into local water during heavy tropical rains.
Exactly. The study quantified that too. Shifting to this integrated approach increased farm biodiversity by 33%.
33%, wow.
Yeah. And that biodiversity isn't just visible insects. It includes microscopic soil fungi and bacteria that break down organic matter and cycle nutrients back to your palm roots.
Which is free fertilizer.
Exactly. Furthermore, drastically reducing chemicals prevents the rise of those superweeds we discussed earlier, like resistant goosegrass. It's becoming a severe, expensive threat in Southeast Asia precisely because of overspraying.
So you might be looking at your own farm's labor situation and wondering how these strategies actually play out on a larger scale. Let's look at the report card for the 3 biggest producing countries from the study.
Yeah, Malaysia, Indonesia, and Thailand.
Right. They share similar tropical climates, but their weed management philosophies are so different.
Extremely different. Take Malaysia, for instance. They are currently the largest user of herbicides in the region.
Really? Why are they using so much more?
It's driven by a severe macroeconomic issue. They have a massive shortage of foreign farm labor.
Ah, so they just don't have the people.
Right. When farmers physically cannot find the manpower to run slashers, they fall back on chemical sprayers out of pure necessity.
Which sets that exact trap we just discussed. They're struggling to implement mechanical weeding and ending up breeding herbicide-resistant superweeds.
Exactly.
So what about Indonesia?
Indonesia faces a similar chemical burden. Roughly 70% of their farmers rely heavily on herbicides.
70%, that's huge.
To visualize the scale of it, nearly two-thirds of the entire country's glyphosate supply is used specifically on oil palm plantations.
Two-thirds, just on oil palm.
Yeah. However, Indonesia is also doing some unique things. They've had unique successes testing biological control to break this dependency.
Like what kind of biological control?
Well, they've seen real success introducing the Siam weed defoliator moth.
A moth.
Yeah. This specific insect naturally preys on the invasive Siam weed. The moth's larvae aggressively consume the weed's leaves, which suppresses its growth organically.
That is brilliant. So the farmers are using nature's own food web to do the weeding for them without spending a dollar on chemicals.
Precisely.
But the most striking data in this study centers on Thailand.
Oh, absolutely. Thailand is a massive success story for smallholders.
Because smallholders make up over 90% of Thailand's palm production, right?
Yes, over 90%. And they show incredibly high environmental awareness. Only 20% of Thai farmers rely primarily on herbicides.
Only 20%. So what are the other 80% doing?
They strongly prefer mechanical methods, like slashing, and they actively use shade to control weeds. By deliberately managing the palm canopy and using ground covers, they deprive the weed seed bank of the sunlight it needs to trigger germination.
Are Thai farmers just lucky, or is there a mindset shift happening there that the rest of the world can learn from?
It's definitely not luck. The researchers attribute Thailand's success directly to participating in robust educational extension programs.
Oh, so they're being actively taught these methods.
Right. Local agricultural services and cooperatives actively teach smallholders sustainable practices. When farmers are shown the direct economic math, that dropping chemicals for mechanical slashing boosts their profit margin by 12%, they adopt the practices rapidly.
Which just proves that knowledge access is the biggest barrier to profitability.
Exactly.
And that is exactly why we're doing this deep dive. We want to translate this massive study into actionable steps. So, taking all the science, economics, and regional data, what exactly should you do on your farm tomorrow morning?
Well, let's break it down into 4 simple tips based on this integrated weed management approach.
Let's do it.
Tip number 1, transition toward mechanical slashing to clear your rows instead of just spraying.
Right, whether that's a tractor-mounted slasher or a handheld brush cutter.
Exactly, because physically cutting the weeds offers a massive dual benefit. Beyond saving that 41% on chemical costs, slashing leaves the cut plant litter directly on the ground.
And as that organic litter decomposes in the tropical heat, it releases carbon, nitrogen, and potassium right back into your topsoil.
You're literally turning your weeds into free soil nutrients.
Amazing. What's tip 2?
Tip number 2 is critical when your palms are young. Plant leguminous cover crops or short-term intercrops like maize or peanuts directly between your palm rows.
Okay, let's explain why a leguminous cover crop is so valuable.
Sure, these specific plants have symbiotic bacteria living in their root systems. They literally pull nitrogen gas out of the air and fix it into the soil.
So they are fertilizing your ground for free?
Exactly. Plus, planting a cash crop like maize or peanuts gives you extra cash while you're waiting for the young palms to mature.
And they serve as a physical shield too, right? They densely cover the soil surface, choking out the dangerous weeds before they get any sunlight.
Right. And their root networks protect the soil, preventing severe erosion during monsoon rains.
So smart. Okay, tip number 3.
Tip number 3, stop using the exact same chemical herbicide every single month.
Yeah, if your local labor situation means you have to use chemicals, you've got to rotate your methods.
Yes. Different herbicides target different biochemical pathways. By rotating them, you disrupt the weed's evolutionary cycle. You prevent surviving weeds from adapting to any single chemical, which stops the breeding of superweeds.
You do not want mutant goosegrass taking over your farm.
No, you really don't.
All right, finally, tip number 4. We already established that trucking heavy, empty fruit bunches is way too expensive for most smallholders.
Right, so instead use your own pruned fronds.
Your palm fronds.
Yeah, when you harvest or prune, Don't just pile them randomly. Lay those fronds strategically on the ground around the base of your trees as mulch.
Oh, I see. It creates an impenetrable physical barricade.
Exactly. The thick, overlapping fronds block the intense sunlight from hitting the weed seeds buried in the dirt. No sunlight means no germination.
And you're utilizing a byproduct you already have on site. It costs you nothing but a few minutes of strategic placement.
Exactly.
So instead of just building a single chemical wall that the weeds will eventually climb over, you're building a fortress with multiple layers of defense shade, slashing, and smart planting.
This raises an important question. Which of these defensive layers are you currently missing on your own farm?
That's the real question.
Right. Are you trapped in an expensive cycle of chemical reliance? Or are you utilizing your own pruned fronds and intercrops to do the work for you?
Observing your land differently is what leads to that 12% profit increase. And as we wrap up, we want to leave you with a completely different perspective on the plants you are fighting.
Yeah, this is important.
Instead of just viewing weeds as an enemy to be destroyed, could the specific types of weeds growing on your farm actually be telling you a secret about your soil's health?
Weeds are incredible bioindicators. I mean, for example, if you notice deep taproot weeds suddenly dominating a specific block, they might be telling you that your soil is severely compacted.
Because they're the only plant strong enough to punch through that hardpan.
Exactly. Or, if a weed that thrives in highly acidic soil takes over a row, it might be diagnosing a severe nutrient imbalance before your palm trees even begin to show visible symptoms.
Wow. So the next time you're out with your brush cutter, look closely at what is growing before you cut it down. Your enemy might actually be giving you a free soil consultation.
It's a very strategic way to listen to what your plantation ecosystem is telling you.
Remember to visit our AI farming assistant at cropdrive.ai to learn more on how to increase your oil palm yields and incomes. Thanks for listening.